Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Everyday English Practice Podcast, the podcast where we help you improve your English through fun, natural, and practical conversations. I'm Emma.
And I'm Jack. Whether you're listening while walking, relaxing at home, driving to work, or studying English, we're really happy you're here with us today. And before we start today's episode, we have a small request. If you enjoy learning English with our conversations, don't forget to follow the podcast and share it with a friend who is also learning English.
Yes, learning English becomes much easier when you practice together. When two people practice, they help each other stay motivated and confident.
Today's topic is interesting, but it can also be a little confusing for many English learners.
Very true. Today we're going to talk about 3 expressions that sound similar but are actually used very differently in English.
Those expressions are wish, want, and would like.
Now, at first, they may look simple, but many English learners often stop in the middle of a sentence and think, should I say I wish? Or should I say I want? Or maybe I would like?
Exactly. And sometimes using the wrong one can make your sentence sound too strong, too formal, or even a little strange.
For example, imagine you go to a restaurant and say to the waiter, I want coffee.
Now, that sentence is grammatically correct. There's nothing technically wrong with it.
But depending on the situation, it might sound a little direct or even slightly rude.
Yes, native English speakers usually say something softer and more polite, like, I would like a coffee.
Exactly. And this is why today's lesson is important, because these 3 expressions help you sound more natural and polite in English conversations.
So, Emma, let me ask you a simple question. If you could travel anywhere in the world right now, where would you go?
That's an easy question for me. I want to visit Japan. I've always wanted to see Tokyo and Kyoto. The culture, the food, the technology, it all fascinates me. What about you?
I think I would like to visit Italy, especially the countryside. Beautiful hills, amazing food, peaceful villages, it just sounds relaxing.
That does sound amazing. But here's a funny question. Is there something you wish you could do right now?
Oh yes, I wish I could take a vacation tomorrow.
Honestly, same here. I wish I didn't have so many emails waiting for me today.
And look at that. In just a few sentences, we used want, would like, and wish.
Exactly. But the meaning of each one is slightly different. So let's break them down one by one.
Let's start with the easiest word, want. This word is very direct. It simply expresses a desire for something. You use want when you say what you desire, need, or plan to have. For example, I want coffee. I want a new phone. I want to learn English.
Very simple. The structure is usually want plus noun or want to plus verb. Examples, I want water. I want to sleep. I want to travel.
This word is very common in everyday English, but there's something important to remember. Sometimes want can sound a little too strong in polite situations. For example, imagine you're in a restaurant and you say, I want a sandwich.
It's not terrible, but it sounds a bit like you're giving an order.
Exactly. And that's why native English speakers often prefer another expression.
And that expression is would like. This phrase is basically a polite version of want. It expresses desire, but in a softer and more respectful way. For example, instead of saying, I want coffee, you can say, I would like coffee.
Or even more naturally, I'd like a coffee. Native speakers shorten it most of the time. Examples, I'd like some water. I'd like to order pizza. I'd like to learn Spanish. Notice the structure. Would like plus noun or would like to plus verb.
Exactly. Now let's imagine we are in a cafe and you are the customer. Ready?
Ready.
Hello, what would you like to order?
I'd like a cappuccino, please.
Sure. Anything else?
Yes, I'd like a slice of chocolate cake.
Perfect. And that conversation sounds polite, natural, and friendly. So here's the key difference. Want equals direct desire. Would like equals polite desire. Let's compare them. Example 1, I want some water. Example 2, I'd like some water. Both sentences are correct, but the second one sounds more polite and natural.
Let's do a quick practice. Which sentence sounds more polite? 1, I want a coffee. 2, I'd like a coffee.
The answer is number 2, I'd like a coffee. Exactly.
Now let's talk about the third word, wish. And this one is different from the other two. Wish is usually not about real things you can easily get. Instead, wish is used for things that are difficult, impossible, or imaginary. For example, I wish I could fly. I wish I had more time. These things are not simple desires. They express something imaginary, unlikely, or impossible. For example, I wish I were taller. I wish I had more money. I wish I could travel the world.
Notice something interesting here. After wish, the grammar often changes. Sometimes we use past tense even though we're talking about the present. For example, I wish I had more free time, but we're talking about now, not the past. This happens because wish expresses an unreal situation.
So, Emma, tell me something. What is something you wish you could do?
Oh yes, I wish I could speak 10 languages.
That would be incredibly impressive. What about you?
I think I wish I could play the piano beautifully.
That's a good one. Meanwhile, I wish I could wake up early every morning without feeling tired.
That might be the most difficult wish of all. And that brings us to the end of the first part of today's conversation. In the next part, we'll go deeper into wish, explore some common grammar patterns, and look at more real-life examples that native speakers use every day. So far, we've talked about 3 important expressions: want, would like, and wish. We learned that want expresses a direct desire. Would like is a polite way to express that desire. And wish is usually used for something unreal, difficult, or imaginary. But now we're going to go a little deeper into wish because this word has some interesting grammar patterns that confuse many English learners. And once you understand these patterns, you'll start hearing them everywhere in movies, conversations, podcasts, and even songs. In fact, once you start noticing it, you'll realize that native English speakers use wish quite often when they talk about dreams, frustrations, or things they hope could be different. So let's begin with something very common. Sometimes we use wish to talk about a present situation that we want to be different. In this case, we usually use the structure wish plus past tense. Now, this sounds strange at first because we're talking about the present, but we use past tense grammar. But remember, the past tense here does not actually mean the past. It simply shows that the situation is unreal or imaginary. In other words, the situation is not true right now, but we want it to be true. For example, I wish I had more free time. This means I don't have enough free time right now, but I want that situation to be different. Another example, I wish I lived near the beach. This means the person does not live near the beach, but they imagine how nice it would be if they did. Another example, I wish I knew how to cook better, meaning that right now the person doesn't feel confident about cooking, but they would like that to change. Emma, let me ask you something. Is there anything about your daily routine that you wish were different? Oh yes, definitely. I wish I woke up earlier in the morning. Sometimes I stay up too late watching shows or scrolling on my phone, and the next morning I feel tired. That's a very common problem. Personally, I wish I had more energy in the mornings. Some people wake up and immediately feel ready for the day, but for me, it takes at least 2 cups of coffee before I start feeling awake. Same here. And honestly, I also wish my coffee machine worked faster. In the morning, every second feels important. That is a very practical wish, and I'm sure many listeners can relate to that. Another common use of wish is when we talk about abilities we don't have. In this situation, we often use the structure wish plus could. For example, I wish I could swim. I wish I could drive. I wish I could speak French. Again, this expresses something that is not true right now. Maybe the person hasn't learned that skill yet, or maybe they never had the opportunity, but they imagine what life would be like if they had that ability. Emma, is there a skill you wish you had? That's a good question. I wish I could play the guitar. I've always admired people who can pick up a guitar and play music effortlessly. That would be cool. Personally, I wish I could draw well. Some people can create amazing drawings with just a pencil, but when I try to draw something, it usually looks very strange. Same here. My drawings look like they were made by a 5-year-old. Honestly, mine might look even worse, but that's okay. Everyone has different talents and interests. Now, here's another interesting structure with wish. Sometimes we use wish plus would. Yes, and we use this when we are talking about something annoying or frustrating that we want to change. The structure looks like this: wish plus someone or something plus would. For example, I wish the rain would stop. I wish my neighbor would turn down the music. I wish my phone would stop ringing. In these sentences, we are expressing frustration or irritation. Something is happening repeatedly and we want it to change in the future. Here's a real-life example. Last night, my neighbor was playing loud music and I remember thinking, I wish that music would stop. Did it stop? Eventually, but it took a long time. I once had a similar situation with my alarm clock. It kept ringing every 5 minutes, and every time I pressed the snooze button, it started again. After a while, I thought, I wish this alarm would just stop. That's a very relatable wish, and I'm sure many listeners have experienced that exact situation. Now, let's compare wish and want, because this is where many English learners make mistakes. Let's look at 2 sentences. Sentence 1. I want more free time. Sentence 2, I wish I had more free time. Both sentences express a desire, but the tone is different. Yes, want sounds direct and practical. It suggests that the speaker believes the thing might be possible. But wish sounds more emotional or imaginary. It suggests the situation is difficult or unlikely. Let's look at another example. I want a new car. This sounds like a goal. Maybe the person is saving money to buy a car. But if someone says, I wish I had a new car, it sounds more like a dream. Maybe the car is too expensive, or maybe the person can't afford it right now. So the difference is often about realistic desire versus imaginary desire. Now, let's compare wish and would like. Remember, would like is mostly used for polite requests or plans. For example, I'd like some coffee. I'd like to visit London. These sentences are polite and practical. But if you say, I wish I could visit London, that usually means the trip is not possible right now. Maybe it's too expensive, or maybe the person doesn't have time to travel. Here's another comparison. I'd like to travel to Paris next year. This sounds like a real plan, but if you say, I wish I could travel to Paris, it sounds more like a dream or hope. Now, let's talk about a mistake many English learners make. Sometimes learners say, I wish to have coffee. Technically, this sentence is grammatically possible, but it sounds very formal and unnatural in everyday conversation. Native speakers almost never say that. Instead, they say, I'd like a coffee, or simply, I want coffee. Let's do a quick practice together. Which sentence sounds more natural in a cafe? 1. I wish to drink coffee. 2. I'd like a coffee. The correct answer is, I'd like a coffee, because it sounds polite, natural, and conversational. Now let's create a small story using these expressions. Imagine a young man named Daniel. Daniel works in a busy office. Every morning he wakes up early, drinks a quick cup of coffee, and goes to work. His schedule is very busy, and he spends most of the day answering emails and attending meetings. But sometimes he feels tired and thinks, I wish I had more time to relax. During his lunch break, he often looks at travel photos online. He sees pictures of mountains, beaches, and beautiful cities around the world. And sometimes he quietly says to himself, I wish I could travel the world. But for now, he has responsibilities. He has work to do, bills to pay, and projects to finish. So instead, he says something more practical. He says, I'd like to take a vacation next year. And every Friday evening, after a long week of work, he says something very simple and very realistic. I want pizza tonight. And honestly, that might be the most realistic wish of all. Now, let's test our listeners with a few examples. I'll describe a situation and we'll choose the best expression. You're ordering food in a restaurant. You should say, I'd like pasta, please. You're dreaming about having more free time. You could say, I wish I had more free time. You're talking about something you really want right now. You might say, I want coffee. Let's try one more example. You're thinking about a skill you don't have but would love to learn. You could say, I wish I could play the piano. And here's another one. You're making a polite request in a cafe. You might say, I'd like a cup of tea, please. Great job. Practicing like this helps train your brain to choose the correct expression naturally. So let's summarize today's lesson. Want, used for direct desires. Example, I want a sandwich. Would like, used for polite requests or plans. Example, I'd like a sandwich. And wish, used for unreal, imaginary, or difficult situations. Example, I wish I had a sandwich. When you understand these differences, your English will sound much more natural and confident. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of the Everyday English Practice Podcast. We hope this conversation helped you clearly understand the difference between wish, want, and would like. If you enjoyed this episode and learned something new, don't forget to follow the podcast and share it with a friend who is also learning English. And here's a small challenge for you. Write one sentence using wish, one sentence using want, and one sentence using would like. Practicing like this is one of the best ways to improve your English. Thank you for listening to the Everyday English Practice Podcast. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.